All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf, and right next to me is Michael Murburg. How's everybody doing tonight?
Everybody. Me and my multiple personalities.
Yeah,
okay, we're doing fine.
I was just making sure we got on the air here. We're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. If you go to Tan Talk 1340, we simulcast or live stream. I don't even know what the correct nomenclatures are these days. Live stream, is that about right? On YouTube. That's if you were looking at this on the computer. All these shows are also archived on imho.love, imho, in my humble opinion, .love.
And on YouTube, imho.love.
And YouTube, yes, imho.
Subscribe, share, give us your friends.
Yeah,
give us your friends.
Give us your friends.
Give us your friends.
And if you're listening old school, you might be on AM 1340, AM 1350, AM 1400. Or if you're over on the frequency modulated side of the dial, you'll be at 104.3 or 106.1 FM here on the Tan Talk Radio Network. We're going to leave the phone, yes?
And 102.3.
And 102.3, says Vaughn, as he unearths himself from a pile of leaves sleeping over there. Anyway, we're going to leave the phone lines open tonight. And hopefully, if you want to interject or got a question or clarification or something to add here in the metro area, 727-441-3000. That's 727-441-3000. And your toll-free number, 866-826-1340. And like we said before, tantalk1340.com. Get you covered on all bases. Well, welcome to the show, folks. We're here every Wednesday night at 7:30. The show is about extraterrestrial stuff.
Well, it's all related. You know, you can't separate the ET and the contact experience from the disclosure aspect of it. Well, you can, but it doesn't make for good radio.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, it makes for great experience and meditation, but what we're talking about is so important to humanity and Americans in particular tonight, because if you don't know who's pulling the strings and running the country, then you have no idea who's controlling disclosure and controlling the military and controlling the information, controlling the money supply, and controlling you.
And that's exactly right. And that's what Michael and I have been digging through these, many years of my personal interest. And Michael is a degreed historian, and we check our facts. We're not just out here blurting stuff. This is all verifiable information, and sometimes a little, and that's what happens to people. I know a lot of people right now are really going through some frustrations. I feel bad for my brother. He's got a situation at his house. He helped out a guy, and the guy has just way overstayed his welcome, and that's a stress. I don't know if you've ever had that happen to you before.
Yeah, I did. and the guy was like a confidential informant from who ratted on the mafia. I was like,
perfect.
It's like, dude, he's in Brazil now.
Real well.
Yeah. Long story. Yeah, he's like, and we got hit by the no-name. He's ready to go the next day. He's got his car all loaded with his stuff, and we get hit by the no-name storm. His car gets submerged. He loses everything, including his car.
Oh my God!
So he's waiting in the spare bedroom for 6 months for his FEMA check to arrive.
Man, that's rugged.
Yeah,
that's rugged.
Yeah.
Be
careful.
My brother's situation is a little less exotic, but just people not doing what they say they're going to do, and hey, we all get bummed out, we all get stressed out, but you got to have some faith in your heart, you got to have some love in your heart, and but sometimes people get taken advantage of because they have too big of a heart. Hey, look at everybody watching the show. Mark Cottingham, there you are, brother. And our Kathy McGuire's here tonight, our producer and our director. She's the head of the I don't know, the promotion department of imho.love. She's our webmaster, and she keeps us out there. And can't thank y'all enough for listening. Hey, Anthony Huggins, I was thinking about you today. Bruno Shrippa, hey, buddy, how you doing, man? Jimmy Celeste, Greg Wilson, hey, thanks for everybody. And there's our friend Donna Rouge. And thank you so much for listening every week, Donna. You are an inspiration to us. And thank you so much. Hi, Diane Yamnik. Anyway, well, ladies and gentlemen, the show, we talk about less reported things and maybe things that, I don't know, maybe you don't know. And maybe you heard of it, or maybe you heard half the story. And now we're going to tell you the other half and hopefully tighten things up for you. These are little things that I picked up. Actually, this is just a little article in a popular magazine about things that we deem are true, but they're not. Like, everybody thinks that lemmings, those little furry animals, the little lemmings that look like hamsters, everybody thinks that they have a suicidal pact, that they will run off a cliff to drown themselves for some particular reason. We've all seen that Walt Disney movie where the lemmings all jump in this suicidal mode into this water. Well, I can tell you that's complete baloney. Lemmings don't do that. And Walt Disney Studios created that whole thing. They actually pushed the lemmings off camera. You can't see it, but they're actually pushing the lemmings off the cliff. They're crowding them off the cliff. That's why they all jumped the way they did.
With little cat puppets on their heads.
Get back, lemmings. And that was in a 1958 documentary called White Wilderness. And this particular publication did not claim that it was Walt Disney. I guess the filmmaker decided that was the right thing to do to show this. But it's a complete fabrication. And I believed it my whole life. Even Gary Larson, who drew The Far Side, had that one cartoon of the lemmings. They're all running towards the cliff, except there's the one in the back who's got a life preserver on. I want to be that guy. Also, too, here in Florida. And tonight, it's a very stormy night here in Tampa Bay. And we're right on Clearwater Bay here at the Tan Talk Studios. And man, there's a big storm brewing.
Yeah. I was across the street from the Clearwater High School having dinner, home of the Clearwater Tornadoes, and it was apropos because the lady she goes, "Take a look at that cloud; it's rolling sideways. We just might have a tornado touchdown here. There's some funky weather going on."
Well, they earned that nickname.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Citronella candles. Everybody in Florida's got citronella candles, and they burn them because they are to repel mosquitoes, right? Complete smoke. What the smoke is the smoke of any candle will deter the mosquitoes. Huh. Yeah. So it doesn't matter whether it's citronella or not. So that's a wonderful scam going on with the citronella industry. Hate to stamp that out for you, fellas. They say if you want to grow a plant that will deter mosquitoes, grow catnip. Mosquitoes don't like catnip.
And your cat will love you for it.
Your cat will be, you think your cat's friendly now. You grow some catnip out there, and man, oh man. Here's another one. You love sushi, right, Michael?
Yeah, especially cooked.
You like cooked sushi?
Yeah, cooked sushi.
So like the tempura?
Like then the raw stuff is. There's some bad stories coming out.
Yeah, I guess, because it keeps just getting cheaper and cheaper. But if you go to
trendy for a good couple decades.
You know, I over those couple decades, I've grown fond of it. And but the one thing, and everybody talks about, the wasabi rush. You put a little extra hunk of wasabi on there.
Yeah, you can also touch a battery to your tongue and get the same effect, but it's not permanent.
Yes, I'd like the 9-volt roll, please.
Hey, before you go into the sushi thing, I had an uncle came back.
You know my uncle.
I had an uncle come back from the war, and he had a couple of his buddies were in Japanese POW camps, and I'm about 4 or 5 years old, and I'm listening to him tell his story, and he goes, "Yeah, these guys came back. They lost like 80 pounds, and the Japanese used to make them eat raw fish. Raw fish. Can you imagine that?" so this is the culture I grew up in. So like sushi is like, oh my God, that's what they feed the POWs.
It's an abomination.
Oh my God. That's, what's next? Water torture.
And here we are coughing up 100 and we want to go see it. Yeah, we want to go have some sushi. The green paste served to you is not wasabi. Wasabi is very, very expensive and difficult to grow. And it's in the same family as horseradish, which is what that's what they're feeding you, is pure horseradish with some green food coloring in it.
Oh my goodness.
So you're not even getting the wasabi.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like this that just absolutely drives me crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some like horseradish farmer in Oregon that's going to be listening to us.
Scalawags,
Writing in the
they're
letter.
Floridians.
It's like, oh my God, they're putting me out of business.
Yes.
It's like they discovered our secret.
Wasabi farm crashes.
Quick, hide the batteries.
Or like 9-volt roll. Anyway, one more. Actually, there's a couple more. Minnesota has more lakes than any other state. Even on their license plate, it says the land of 10,000 lakes. Actually, they have more than that. They have about 12,000 lakes.
Right.
But pales in comparison to Alaska's 3 million lakes.
Wow.
They have 3 million lakes in Alaska.
That's because you can fit like 30 Minnesotas in Alaska. 3 million lakes. And they got the mosquitoes to match it.
Very nice. And the one thing, this is the kind of the pièce de résistance and what got me started on this train of thought. I have a friend of mine who's a real dairy farmer. He actually has cows. He sells the milk to big supermarket chains here. And he was telling me some stuff about milk.
This is a guy with the strong hand grip.
This guy, he'll crush you. I mean, he would be the worst guy to play in Mercy. His upper body strength is incredible. I feel sorry for any, drunken sexual advances he might make on himself. He could hurt himself. But anyway.
What a poor cow.
Those cows.
Oh my God.
They're darn cows. Anyway, almond milk. I've been drinking it for a couple of years now. And I drink the vanilla flavored, unsweetened, and at 30 calories per 8 ounces. I think I'm doing myself good. Almonds are good for you, right?
Well, it's a 30 calories. That doesn't
30
hurt.
calories, right?
And it tastes like you.
Tastes like something. I don't know what, but I was dumping it on my cereal, and I eat that brand cereal, So, the brand cereal has enough taste to overcompensate it or whatever.
Yeah.
So you don't suffer through it.
Yeah. Twigs always taste good.
Guess. This is from my friend, the expert guy who has a dairy farm, who's in the dairy business. This isn't hearsay. Do you know how many almonds are in a half a gallon of almond milk? Any brand?
Well, I don't know, but how do you milk an almond? I've always wondered about that.
Very carefully.
Go on.
Very carefully.
Okay.
One. There's one almond in there just to keep them out of legal trouble. The rest is a solution with sugar and saccharin and all this stuff that you don't want. So, and actually, after a very frank discussion with my friend who owns the dairy farm, he said, what you want to do if for your best health, he says, is drink whole milk. Get the full fat. So your brain wants fat. The low-fat diet thing was actually a scam that came out about 50 years ago. The push to low-fat. Your brain needs fat.
Yeah, and what I do is I drink half and half. I use it sparingly, but I use as much as I want. In Big Lebowski style. Right, and it provides you with enough fat to keep you from being hungry. So sometimes I'll have a cup of coffee with half and half, so I won't be hungry at breakfast time. I was reading an article the other day, and there was a bunch of recommendations on breakfast in the United States, and the article was on, is bacon good for you for breakfast? Okay. About 60 or 70 years ago, they actually got some doctor to sign a piece of paper, the bacon industry, saying, oh, it's good for you to have bacon for breakfast in the morning. And they put it with eggs, and they started selling it as, this is health food,
Yes.
But the thing, it may or may not be.
Right.
We learned that eggs are good, eggs are bad, eggs are good. It all depends on how you use them.
Mood eggs.
So what they end up finding is like, oh, okay. Well, the counter to that was, oh my God, we're gonna, we need Americans need a good, cheap, quick breakfast, so we're gonna recommend grains for them. So we get the doctors to do the same thing on grains. It's all BS. Right on down the line.
It just drives me crazy. And but what the dairy farmer said, he said, what you can do is, you really want to get the most healthful milk, is get raw milk.
Yeah. It's difficult to buy because you can only sell it if you're using it for agricultural purposes.
And that's how you should buy it.
And you'll pay $14 a gallon for it too.
But it's the real deal. In fact, he has a friend that lost 75 pounds drinking the raw milk. He had a lean diet and the raw milk every day. He lost 75 pounds in a matter of like 4 months.
Yeah, I used to. They actually sell raw milk. They used to sell it in downtown Tampa at the Duckweed, which was a real place.
Yeah,
but yeah, you could get it. It was good. Yeah,
that's funny.
No doubt about it. Duckweed.
What'd you call me? Anyway,
got papers here, man. Oh, of course
hey, man, you ruined my record. Anyway, hi, Susan Fraley. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so if you can get raw milk, that's what you want to get. And drink full milk. And actually, the TG Lee comes in a yellow jug, and it lasts a little longer. So the yellow jug does diffuse the sunlight and all the general light that the milk runs into. Because I've been noticing that the Publix whole milk, or whatever brand, it goes bad about 2 days before the expiration date.
Yeah.
So
and
it ain't cheap.
When I was a kid, I learned that when you're selling food, you go for 5 times your cost. So for an egg, you go for 5 times profit on an egg.
Mm-hmm.
What's the profit margin when you're paying $3.29 for half a gallon of almond juice based on one almond?
I know.
Who says money doesn't grow on trees?
I think the government did the math. And that's we're going to be into the second, or actually we're going to start this half and then we'll continue into the second half. My Facebook bleats this week were about FDR, the Fed, which we've been covering the last several weeks, and Smedley Butler. Smedley Butler.
Smedley.
It's
Smedley
D. Butler.
D. Butler, yeah. You know what his middle name was?
Dave.
No. Darlington.
Really?
Darlington, yeah. No wonder he went with Smedley. I mean, it's like you're going to be a Marine.
A Marine named Darlington.
Come here. How you doing?
You, Darlington.
Hey, Darlington.
He's very popular.
Hey, darling. Come here.
Help me do this push-up. All right. Smedley D. Butler, was one of the highest decorated Marines ever. And he was being used by the banking fascists to take FDR out of office and start a fascist-based political party of 500,000 men.
Well, kind of a little background on this. Okay. Smedley Butler was he was the highest decorated Marine of all times.
Of all time.
Okay. He was not only a Congressional Medal of Honor winner.
Okay.
He was a 2-time Congressional Medal of Honor.
2 times.
Winner. 2 times.
Deuce.
So he went up in front of guns, face to face, save other men on 2 separate occasions, and his heroics were so high. And what he ended up doing was becoming, he spent 33 and a half years in the service. He wrote a book, War is a Racket, later on in his life.
War is a Racket.
Right. But Smedley Butler was a great Marine, and he did the bidding of all, Brown Brothers, of all the American institutions, United Fruit, American Fruit Company, throughout all of Central and South America. He was in a number of wars. He did the U.S. bidding in the Philippines as well. And he was the guy. He was the go-to guy. You want to get something done, you got Smedley Butler to do it.
Right.
And he was loved by his men. He got a kind of a backfield assignment in World War I, which kind of ticked him off a little bit. And then he came home to run Camp Lejeune, and then he was looking to have to become the commandant of the Marine Corps.
Wow.
I hope I have the term right, but it's the head, the head of the whole shebang. And he got riffed. He got passed over for a lesser guy, somebody with less experience, because it was a political position. He got a little angry,
right?
And then so he left the Marine Corps, basically. And then he was happy, and he made his money, lecturing. He was on the lecture circuit. So in 1931, there was a march on Washington, D.C. When the doughboys came home, our soldiers came home, they were basically given $60 and a ticket home.
Really?
They mustered out for $60 and a ticket.
Man,
home. All right.
Sounds like a sad hooker story.
It was, and what happened is that Congress realized that this was going to be a problem, because you have 2 million vets that are back in the country, and they're not doing well.
Right.
So what happened?
Still they're not.
And then they're not. This has been consistent all along. So what ended up happening is Congress, shortly, a few years after the war, said, okay, instead of this, we're sorry about the $60, but what we're going to do is this: we're going to give you $1,000.
Okay.
In 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So stand on the corner and wait for it.
Yeah. So everybody's like, it's better than what we got. I mean, for crying out loud, in the Civil War.
$1,000 in 20 years?
In 20 years.
What, do you have a voucher or something dated 20 years later?
Right, yeah. When you got to live long enough to collect it. But you got to realize war has developed, the Civil War, we didn't even have ambulances. We had no ways to bring bodies home. People, if your son died on the battlefield, you had to go down and get his body with your own wagon and fetch it back home. Some people drove thousands of miles to do that. Yeah. So with the mechanization of war and the business of war, especially after World War I, which is also known as the Bankers' War, we can go into that next week or the following week on how the Fed and how Balfour, Warburg, the Fed all got involved, giving us the Federal Reserve System as part of and enticing us into World War I, a war that we shouldn't have been involved in or shouldn't have fought. Okay. So, but we're running up on the end of the half an hour. But
okay, but we got that 1 minute 25 of Smedley Butler actually speaking and laying this out.
Hit him with Smedley, and I'll talk on the downside.
Okay, very good. So this is you can find this on YouTube. This is Smedley Butler, who's disclosing what was trying to take place.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff, or as a club at least, to intimidate the government and break down our democratic institutions. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government. I talked with an investigator for this committee who came to me with a subpoena on Sunday, November 18th. He told me they had unearthed evidence linking my name with several such veteran organizations. As it then seemed to me to be getting serious, I felt it was my duty to tell all I knew of such activities to this committee. My main interest in all this is to preserve our democratic institutions. I want to retain the right to vote, the right to speak freely, and the right to write. If we maintain these basic principles, our democracy is safe. No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech, and press.
There you go. That was Smedley Butler. I think that was 1943. They recorded that.
Well, it would be before 1941. He died in 1940.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, all right.
Wikipedia here.
Well, there you go. That's why one of the reasons, many reasons, we love you, Michael. So there was a guy. They tried to put the fix in on the most decorated Marine in the world. I mean, just the raw eggs on these people. And they tried to turn this guy, but he denied it. And he read the Constitution. He read the Declaration of Independence. He had these things written in his heart. And he'd been defending our country for 33 years as a U.S. Marine. So, I mean, a true man of conviction and bravery. And then when the rubber hit the road, I mean, he had both tires smoking because he knew exactly what was up, and he fought against it and stopped it. It did not. Now, this was supposed to be when they were trying to unseat FDR, correct?
Yes, it was all about FDR. And rather than getting into, it's rather complicated.
Okay.
So, and it goes back to Italy and the fascist movement with Mussolini. So that's kind of where we can start after the break. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay.
It's pretty complex stuff, but it all adds up. The one thing I will say is that Smedley Butler warned us about these people. And Eisenhower warned us about the same people, but Eisenhower put the name of military-industrial complex on them.
Yes.
Which by then, this cabal of mutineers, of these, of bankers, the Illuminati, essentially the Illuminati,
yeah,
had morphed later on into what we have today.
So. The amazing thing, I meet people throughout the week. Some people listen to the show, and I'm very thankful for all that. Hi, Justin. And a lot of people think I'm a little nutsy or I'm a little crazy, or they go, man, that's pretty far-fetched. The reality of it is the far-fetching is not to believe it, to think that it wouldn't happen, to think that people could be bought and persuaded and sell their brother down the river for way less than you would imagine. The amount... we'll come back to Smedley Butler at the end, but he wrote a very famous book called War is a Racket, and it's tremendously interesting. If you want the history class you did not get, especially through the Florida school system, it's so funny, Michael. I'll ask how many, when I'm doing a comedy show, I'll ask how many Florida natives they have in the room. I said, by round of applause, how many Florida natives do we have? And people raise their hands. Like any type of Pavlovian response is fine. We made it all the way through. But anyway, War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. It's on YouTube, and it's a free read service. Somebody will read it to you. All you have to do is drive down the road and listen to one of the most important historical eras, a snapshot of one of the most historical eras of American politics. And he describes it. This is a real guy. This is your neighbor. This is a guy that you can trust to do whatever. And
yeah, but Butler too. Well, a couple seconds. Butler is an interesting character. He actually lied to get into the Army or into the Marine Corps before he was 16, and he was a Quaker.
He's a Quaker.
A Quaker.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I love Quakers.
So there's a young man of conflict from the very beginning.
Sure.
And what ends up happening is people thought he was a good boy who would do their bidding for him, and deep down inside, that he was the most loyal patriot America could have ever asked for.
I feel good just saying his name, Smedley Darlington Butler. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf. There's Michael Murburg. The first half, believe it or not, has flown right by. It's really great seeing everybody here. Hey, Balin, my little buddy Balin. And Mike Lucas, very, very talented radio dude. This is like pure love here. So we'll be back. We got to play about 6 minutes of regular mainstream news. Don't believe a word of it, folks. And then we also have some advertising that'll be blended in with that. And then we'll be back in about 6 minutes. imho.love. Thanks for tuning in.
AM Clearwater,
FM 106.1,
WDCF Dade City,
FM 102.3,
WZHR Zephyr Hills,
FM 104.3.
Listen.
Special report, Democratic debate. With round 2 getting underway at this hour, President Trump has been paying attention to the Democratic debates, waiting to see who out of the field will be the candidate he faces in the 2020 election.
The country would be in a great recession or depression, President Trump tweets, his theory of what would have happened had he not won the 2016 election. Thinking back to the last Great Recession, as the Bush administration changed over to the Obama administration, fellow Delawarean and Joe Biden's Senate replacement Chris Coons looking to remind the locals.
One of the things Joe did as vice president was fight really hard to save America's automobile industry. The revitalization here in Detroit is in no small part a result of that.
Bob Costantini, Detroit.
And after stumbling last month when confronted by Senator Kamala Harris, tonight former Vice President Joe Biden will be forced to defend his record as 9 rivals fight to knock him off his frontrunner perch in the Democratic presidential race. I'm Barbara Cusack. President Trump said in a tweet that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell let him down by not signaling further interest rate decreases despite today's 0.25 percentage point rate cut. Correspondent Jim Roop reports Hal Prince, the Broadway producer and director known for pushing boundaries with such shows as The Phantom of the Opera and Sweeney Todd, has died.
He helped keep Broadway music alive in a very difficult time during the emergence of rock and roll, and to prove that, along with his 21 Tony Awards, came a Life Achievement Honor in 2006 for his role in shaping the Broadway musical in the second half of the 20th century.
Hal Prince was 91. The drug industry lobby, Pharmaceutical Research Manufacturers of America, says the Trump administration's plan to let Americans import cheaper prescriptions from Canada is far too dangerous. It also points out that law enforcement has repeatedly warned that importation schemes could worsen the U.S. opioid crisis. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Driving is freedom. The freedom to keep moving, to control your destiny, and to choose your path. And now that freedom fits in the palm of your hand. It's called Ford Pass, the only app that gives you roadside assistance, Ford Pass rewards, and now when you buy or lease a new Ford, earn points you can use toward flexible complimentary maintenance that gives you, well, more freedom. Ford Pass, built to keep you moving, built Ford proud. Visit your participating Ford dealership to find out about getting flexible complimentary maintenance when you buy or lease a new Ford and sign up for rewards.
Roadside assistance is included for certain Ford owners and available to everyone for a per-service fee. Ford reserves the right to change program details without obligations. Visit your participating dealer or FordPassRewards.com for program rules and restrictions. Ford Pass, compatible with select smartphone platforms, is available via a download.
Tuesday, the Rays opened a critical series in Boston against the Red Sox. In a seesaw battle, the Rays moved ahead for good on this swing.
Going the pitch is swung on and lifted. Left field and deep. Benintendi going back. Get up. It's off the wall. Garcia to second base with a 2-run double, and the Rays have regained the lead. It's 6-5.
Javi Garcia drove in 3 runs. The bullpen, after losing a lead in the 5th, was able to hold on from there on out.
Swing and a high fly ball. Left field should be playable. The Rays hold off the Red Sox here in the 9th after holding them off in the 8th and come away with a 1-run victory as they beat Boston in the opener of this 3-game series by a score of 6-5.
Emilio Pagan getting the final 4 outs, and the Rays win the first of 3 against Boston. Same 2 teams Wednesday. Airtime at 6:30. With a Rays report, I'm Neil Solos.
Catch the Rays all season on the Rays Radio Network. For tickets, visit RaysBaseball.com.
Hey everybody, it's Bad Craig, host of Blazing Cigars, sponsored by Island Lifestyle and Tobacco Depot. Blazing Cigars is Tampa Bay's only true cigar lifestyle radio show. We feature the latest in cigar industry news, current trends, and cigar tips. Also, interviews with different cigar manufacturers from around the country. And of course, I'm always looking for my next ex-wife. So join us every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon. That's Blazing Cigars right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network. Again, Blazing Cigars right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
If you would like to become a wholesale buyer of the premium quality longevity product that you hear about right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network for personal service, you can pick up the phone right now and call Lola at 727-441-3311. Again, that's Lola at 727-441-3311. Or for even faster service, log on to tantalkhealth.com. That's tantalkhealth.com. Here's to your health and longevity.
Don't miss the Craft Beer Hour every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll bring you up to speed on craft beer events and festivals, local breweries, and interview the brains behind the brews. So grab a pint and listen to the Craft Beer Hour every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network, and visit the website, thecraftbeerhour.com.
Are you looking for a job? Join me, Gene Hodge, on the Employment Opportunity Hour, Thursdays from 7 to 8 p.m., where I will tell you and share with you, as well as answer all of your questions and help you find enjoyable employment instead of a job. This is the only talk show that talks about everyone who makes up our workforce. Join me on the Employment Opportunity Hour every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. on the Employment Opportunity Hour.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. imho.love, Lou Angelwolf, Michael Murburg. We're here for the second half hour. If you're listening on the radio, you can get AM 1340 or 1350, 1400, FM 102.3, 106.1, and 104.3. There you go. And of course, we're on tantalk1340.com. The shows are recorded and archived at imho.com. It's in my humble opinion, .love.com. That's it, imho.love.com. And of course, we're on Facebook, and we're doing a Facebook Live right now, and we're also doing a YouTube live stream off of the Tan Talk, tantalk1340.com. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the second half, and we sure appreciate everyone listening. It really is a lovely list of folks seeing there, and my buddy Dave Neese, and hey, Gwiggy Standing Up. I see him on Facebook all the time. I don't think I know him. I might know him. I don't know. But anyway, we're talking about, well, the whole show is kind of, we're just, lifting up rocks and seeing what runs out. But there's some little known, this is, I didn't know this. You remember, they kind of took it away right before as I was going through school. I'm knocking on 60, so this was a while ago. I remember a dunce cap in the room, but I don't remember the teacher using it. Dunce cap was the pointed head thing that they would put on you in case you were acted up or you were dumb.
Bring that back.
Man, and boy, talk about, you'd have lawsuits if you put a kid in a dunce cap now. But the funny thing about the dunce cap was, it was a long-running bad joke. That pointed thing, okay? Actually, there was a guy, a philosopher named John Duns Scotus, okay? It used to be turned over, and the students that were studying with him would turn it like a funnel. They said it was a funnel from the heavens and a funnel from the exterior world into their brain that helped them think and philosophize. So, and they would walk around with these upside down funnels on their heads. Okay. Well, somewhere along the line, humor joined in and they turned them over, which means you're not being enlightened, you're dumb. So it turned the hat over. Now it's pointed and everything's running off of it. And that's when it actually, but it still kept its name, the Duns cap.
Duns cap, wow.
D-U-N-S.
Wow, next time I'm in shul, I'm going to turn my yarmulke upside down.
Catch a little puddle, there.
God, give me some grace.
Yeah.
It's a grace collector.
It is. There you go. And did you know this, that Adidas and Puma are owned by two brothers?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. That's I didn't know that. Yeah. And we'll wind this right back in. This is the perfect little lead in or lead back. Adolf Hitler's nephew fought in the United States military.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was traveling to the United States, fleeing Germany, basically, with his mother, Bridget Hitler. And then World War II broke out. They were an outcast of England, so they were sent over here. And he was denied but a sincere letter to President Roosevelt. Okay, got it overturned. They did a background check, and he was finally accepted. He served 3 years in the U.S. Navy as a pharmacist's mate. There's the gig.
That's right.
What do I want to do? I want to be a pharmacist's mate, little Hitler. Come here, little Hitler.
Let's send him to the front of the pharmacist line.
What if you take this and this?
I'm sorry.
What happens to you
It's
now?
like you got a choice. Either aspirin or penicillin. If it doesn't work, you're dying.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you how inside all this stuff was. You always see pictures of these world leaders. You see Stalin and Churchill and Mussolini all standing together. You know why? Because they were buddies. These weren't blood enemies. These are all business guys.
They're all being financed by the same banks.
The same bank is financing, and literally, it's a lot like the Super Bowl of countries. It really is.
Yeah, it is.
But they fight to the death.
Right. And as long as the banks are making money, it's going to go on as long as possible.
And apparently they need to re-stimulate the economy, or something else needs to happen, because they're stirring up all kinds of garbage over in the Middle East now, which will, of course,
war means profit.
Of course. And
you take, like Smedley Butler said, you take the profit out of war and wars will end.
Yes. Yeah. And people won't even want to go. I never wanted to go.
Yeah, why would you? You know, and it's a good thing they ended Vietnam before I went there, you know.
Yeah, you tightened it up.
Yeah, they knew I was coming, so they put peace on the table.
That's it.
I didn't have to go to war, luckily. So,
but my buddy Dave Mustaine says, peace sells, but who's buying? So anyway, folks, welcome back to the imho.love show. Lou Angelwolf, Michael Murburg. We're covering the last several weeks about the Federal Reserve and how long it's been, literally hundreds and hundreds of years with this fractional reserve banking system that, you're wondering why these trillions of dollars of debts, and this president runs it up this many trillion, and this president runs it up this many trillion. It's impossible for them not to, simply because of mathematics. The U.S. government pays interest on every dollar that's printed. They slow them down, they pick them up. They slow them down, they pick them up. They flood the market, they scarce the market. Whatever, it all happens through the Federal Reserve. And literally, it is the bank that, that's our country's bank. We don't have our own bank. We used to have our own bank that was run by government.
Yeah, Congress used to print the money. We didn't let a private organization that's owned by unknown shareholders make our money for us.
That's the phrase right there, Michael. Unknown shareholders. We don't even know who actually has controlling interests in the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, but we can give it a pretty good shot. The people that have been running this country, people like Rothschilds, Rockefellers, DuPonts, Harriman, and the Warburgs, for example, the guy who's on Monopoly, Little Orphan Annie.
Yeah.
That's Big Daddy Warbucks was Paul Warburg. But there was a book that was written quite a number of years ago by David Hill called The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It was written about 1975. And besides the names I just mentioned, he also names the other puppet masters. And I will bet you the farm that these are shareholders, and their families are the shareholders, and their progeny are shareholders in the Federal Reserve System, and a lot of other banks in the world that are central banks with the same shareholder setups. The Carnegies, the Dukes, the Astors. These are people that sell tobacco, that sold coal, that sold iron and steel, the Durants, the Reynoldses, the Stillmans, the Bakers, Pines, Colemans, Watsons, Chukes, Kleinworth, Phillipses, Grace, Guggenheims, Drexels, Milners, Winthrops, Vanderbilts, Whitneys, Harkness, and there are others. But these are people that you will not know their names, because one of the gifts of being a shareholder in a corporation, especially, is that you don't have to give your name, and that's why These people are the
Hence
richest people in
corporations.
America. Yeah. So, and that's the way it is with the Fed. We can go into that a little later, but these are the people that essentially made up what was known as the Liberty League, or a good number of them, including J.P. Morgan, who were the ones that approached Smedley Butler after he had been, riffed in the appointment as the head of the Marine Corps, thinking he was just going to fall in line because he was angry at FDR, and because he was angry at not getting the political appointment, that he would, become an enemy.
Right.
But let me set the stage a little bit. 1931, 1932, there's something known as the Bonus Army, and they march on Washington, D.C. There's approximately 43,000 veterans that are in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
They occupy empty houses, condemned buildings, and they would come into formation downtown. Now, Herbert Hoover was president at the time, and Hoover was kind of a milquetoast kind of guy. I mean, he wasn't a real.
He's a big mushy guy.
Well, yeah, and he didn't particularly like the Liberty League either. But when the Bonus Army gathered, well, it ended up. Congress ended up, doing the reason they gathered is because they're saying, look, we need that $1,000 now. We're starving. We're in the streets. And we're going to march on Washington. And they did. And Hoover didn't know what to do. So Douglas MacArthur, without Hoover's orders, musters his troops and then attacks the veterans who have gathered in Washington, D.C. and disperses the march.
That's incredible.
So he attacks without the commander-in-chief's orders. So MacArthur, MacArthur, strange history on him too. His father was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner and a general. His father died, and his mother ends up sleeping with Blackjack Pershing for the rest of her life. So he had a tough military family organization to be involved with. So it's like,
all stars, though.
Dad's dead, and you're sleeping with Pershing. I mean, for crying out loud! But what happens is Smedley Butler actually spoke to the rally in I believe it was in July of 1932, and he became like, wow. I mean, people were willing to follow him down the barrel of a cannon, and the Liberty League, these people who were worried about FDR, one of the qualms was is FDR immediately was taking us off the gold standard, and these people wanted to protect their money. So they saw what happened with Mussolini in Italy. Mussolini did the same thing. What Mussolini did is he took the veterans from World War I, gathered them together, made them into brown shirts, and then took over the government.
Wow.
And that's what they were going to do with Smedley Butler. They approached him and said, hey, look, we think you can, we want to get you involved with. First, they tried to get him involved with the veterans organizations, and he refused to do it. And they basically said, look, we think you're capable of leading half of, 500,000 men in a revolt in this country, and we're willing to put you in the driver's seat so you can be the head of the country and you be given policy-making powers. But he sees that, and he goes, yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That's not the system we have in place.
Right. And because they were looking for a white knight, a guy on a white horse to come in and lead the country.
Sure.
That's great for the guy on the white horse for a little while. Eventually he dies, and then somebody on a gray horse or a black horse comes in, and you are screwed.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the model we've been using through in the last 150, 200 years.
Well, that's the thing with so many things is, it's like when a business changes hands. You go to a great diner for years on end, and then all of a sudden it's got new owners, and it's not so great anymore. Same thing with those kind of setups. We have a system that functions not smoothly or well, but they wanted there was a facet backed by huge money, and they probably could have made it, but there was such a public outcry and reversal of mindset when Smedley Butler spoke up and gave his true feelings about it. He it was amazing. They were amazed at how many people identified with his message.
Yeah, and he actually reported it, and he got the ball rolling. He went down the rabbit hole as a novice, and got the names and the dates and the information, everything that you'd possibly need. And he eventually gave it to a reporter in Philadelphia, and word gets to one of the liberals in Congress, and they ended up having a congressional investigation, which kind of fingered J.P. Morgan as the money man. Morgan was willing to put up $300 million to get the ball rolling, which back in 1931 was a ton of money.
How many million?
3 million. And
three or 300 million.
3 million, but Butler, but they ended up saying we can start with 3, but we have as many as 300 million. We can back this. Wow. And they were ready to go with it. And then Smedley Butler was the one that reported it, and that's what got him into that's what created the congressional investigation. That's what got him testimony. And then FDR, essentially, it looks like he gave the word back down a little bit on this, because we're going to need these people later on. I know these people. These are the people I go to the country club with. These are the people I went to school with. I know their families. We're intermarried, and they're still intermarried. If you go through all these family names and you look at the New York Times, the wedding announcements, you're going to find all these people are intermarrying still.
Sure.
All these different families, and there are quite a few new names, but the Bushes are a member of them, but that's what happened. So Butler gives his testimony. They don't subpoena all the witnesses. They should have. They could have. In the end, a lot of Butler's testimony is not included in the congressional record, but the investigation says we believe Butler.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing that that these kind. This reminds me of like watching like one of those weekly like Showtime dramas, like watching The Sopranos or Ray Donovan, or it's the same kind of antics that all those shows, the Vikings, all of them, they're the same show over and over again.
Right.
It's basically The Sopranos with Vikings. They have on horns on their head, and and
another myth. Another myth.
Yeah. So it's just this power grab that apparently humans are very, very addicted to, and but what winds up resulting in all of these events is that people get killed, people get hurt, hard times and struggle ensue. Now, whether those are put there universally for those with inner strength to find a reason to turn around, a reason to build yourself back up, a reason to believe again, because hard times do make good people sometimes. Some of the best people I know have been through huge struggles in their life. Michael, you too. You and I have that in common.
I buried a son who was a soldier.
Dude, I was just going to tell you the other day, I was thinking about that. I was, and I let a tear out for you, man. I was just thinking about how difficult that must have been to accept that reality. And it's beautiful.
And forgive the military, not only for killing him, but for lying about it.
Dude, you come a long way, man. That's
you got to make the trip.
Yeah. It's but the character that you possess these days is something you wouldn't have had. Hard way to go to get such a thing. But
deep pain creates deep growth.
Yeah. And had a little bit myself, not as extreme as that, but still. I get it. And sometimes the universe lets your bones be broken to let your heart be fixed. Sometimes you're thrown on your back to look up. And that's happened to me many, many years ago. And, I try. I do try. I'm a mess in a lot of different ways. I have not, I've not mastered this human American life. But I do try to go through each day as peacefully as possible. I'm a little greedy. I'm a little narcissistic. I'm a little problematic. I'm a little distant at times, but for the most part, I want everybody to be fine. I want everybody to be happy. I try not to harbor any hate in my life. I just don't have any room for it. And, I've hurt people's feelings before, and I've vehemently apologized. But on the other hand, I've been able to really reach out and help a lot of people over the years. And it's been absolutely my privilege, because it's the thing that lets me sleep at night. I can lay my head down, do my meditations, and wake up refreshed, knowing that it was a good journey. And I love that sleep state. I love that little space over there.
Well, as we're coming down the wire here, some people may be asking, well, why weren't these guys ever prosecuted for doing what they did, for trying to overthrow the government?
Right.
Well, one of the books I read said, in the end, they basically said that they didn't actually get a chance to go about it, so they forgave them and moved on.
Really?
But another reality is, at the time, in 1931, it wasn't until 10 years later that we had the Smith Act that made their acts illegal.
Really?
That they could be prosecuted under a U.S. code statute. What they were doing at the time still was in a very gray zone, and it wasn't considered illegal.
Oh, man.
Because they hadn't pulled the trigger to make it go. Smedley Butler stopped that. But the reality is that because FDR, I'll go on the limb, FDR saved the country by creating a form of socialism in this country that kept us from going into a more communist form. Because, when he was elected, communism, the Wobblies, communism was a very strong movement in the United States, and it succeeded in Russia with the help of some with the banking with backing.
3 minutes.
But this was a time when there was no CIA and there was no NSA, and since then, these fascists who were worried about FDR have done nothing other than entrench their power in an oligarchy that is modern American fascism today. They've got very, very sophisticated, and they married into each other, and then they married government with industry, which is exactly what the fascists do, which is exactly what Hitler did.
That's what Project Paperclip was.
Well, yeah, and what we do, we have fascism here in the United States. We're looking for dictatorial power.
We bought it. We paid retail for it.
Right, and with suppression of dissent, centralized government. We have centralized planning in the United States. That's what the Fed does.
Yeah.
That's what the Russians did. They had centralized 5-year plans. You can't get any more. And the only difference between the communism and Russia was they sold the idea that the people are going to own the means of production. They didn't. The government ended up just controlling the means of production and selecting who was going to profit from it. And that's exactly what we got going on today.
You couldn't be more right, Michael. I mean, just the depersonalization of everything. I mean, from the hometown hardware store to the privately owned grocery, everything is big corporation these days. And that's they want you to stand in line and get your dispensation. But I say there's a better way, that you can reach out and be more personal with people, be kind, be gentle, be understanding. Man, oh man, it's hard to do sometimes, but it is so worth it, especially at the end of the day. If you turned a good deed during the day, and on your ride home, you're sitting in traffic, you go, it was really nice to be able to help that person. It was really nice to be able to change a situation with your energy and your intention. And that's what we try to do here on the imho.love show. We try to share the experiences that we've had in life. Michael, like I said, a degreed historian, and me, this has been my passion for many, many years.
And lawyer at www.disabilityattorney.net. Do you need to write to me at darbyranchce5@gmail.com?
Okay. If you got that, you might have to play it back real slow.
There you go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're in our last minute. We got to run. Hey, thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Hey, Eric Smith. And Jake, my little cousin, Debbie, Jonathan Jurgens. Thanks so much for listening in. We're back here every Wednesday night at 7:30. It's the imho.love show. Have a great week.
Hear my plea, or is it it just my imagination?